Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my JavaScript tutorial series. Today I'll be covering events, JavaScript events, JS events. So what's an event? An event is a signal um, that is used to execute a particular task. Let's say a signal that executes or performs a particular task. So events, for example, if you want to do something, there has to be a signal that comes before it in JavaScript before the action can be performed. So in this tutorial, I'll be covering events in two sections. In the first part, I'm going to teach you how to add events. And then in the second part, I'll teach you how to remove events. Okay, so each element, if I go to this HTML document, which is this one that is showing here in the browser window that is open, each element in HTML has a set of events. A set of events that can be called on it to perform a particular function. And for that, I'll start with the button. So a button has a click event, it has a double click event, it has a mouse over event, on mouse up event, on mouse down. So there are very many events that each element has. And just to give you a simple illustration, if I go to HTML events, let me just Google that. I go right here, W3 Schools. It's a very good resource for coding. I can see here that there are some events on the window object, which is the mother object on which there's the document and all the elements that come under the document. And then these are all the different events. And here there are form events, there are keyboard events, there are mouse events on click. So previously, we've been using on click, on double click in the HTML. So if I'm going to use an event in HTML, I would have to use the word on, then click. But if it's in JavaScript, it's a different story. Just to illustrate that as I begin, let's start with a click event. Let me put this in lowercase. Okay, click event. So I have a button here. Previously, let me first start a function here. So I want this button that once someone clicks it, I randomize the background of my screen, of the window. Okay, so I'm going to call this function change background. Give me a minute. Let me something little here. Change background. Yeah, let's just call it change BG. So this is function change background. Okay. So for this function, let me create some random numbers using the math function. Say here math dot flow. Have your math dot random. Generate some random numbers. And then I'll multiply by, let me start by multiplying by 100. Okay, so it's going to be cost C1 will be equals. Okay. So it's the first color. Let me copy and paste this 3 times. So this is going to be C2, stand for color 2. This is going to be C3. And here, let me say times 150 times 200. Okay, so I've generated random numbers C1, C3, and I want to change the background of the document. So if I come right here in my document, it's the HTML document, I want to change the background of this body, which is the enclosure of all the elements within my document. So first of all, I'll first say const random color, random color. Okay, let me say random background color. I'm going to make it a string, and I'll use the RGB notation, and then I will put in my first color, which is going to be C1. Put a space, put C2. Okay, I'll need to put again, it's going to be C2, and then let me just copy this and paste it, just to save time. Space, paste it here, then I'll make this C3. Okay, so now I'll then say document dot body to get the body dot style dot background color. I'll just get it from here, and then I'll set it to my random background color. Okay. All right. So previously, I would just get my function right here and come to the HTML. I'll look for the button here and then put an on-click event, and then put my function in it. Change BG. Then I'll call it. Okay, change BG, change BG. So now if I click here, I'll say change in the background. If I click, I'll see a different color. Click a different color. So I'm generating different colors. At every click, I'm generating different colors using the math method. And then so I'm getting different values here, and then I'm passing them into this RGB conversions for colors, and then I'll pass it into the background. Okay, as I keep clicking, I'll keep random numbers. Okay, so passing in event handlers to elements in HTML is not good coding practice. Just imagine, for demonstration purposes, like in the previous videos, I've been doing this because it's really very brief and it's very short just to demonstrate. But if you have a very big application, a very big web application, you probably have like 1,000 HTML elements. And if you're going to have event handlers on each button, it becomes extremely hard to maintain your code and to update it. And in software development, there is no single person that manages an application. It's usually a team that works together. There will be someone that to write the code, and later on there will be others to review the code, to go through it, and also to make additions. Because it's a collaborative environment where people bring in their different ideas and building something great. So it's not good coding a practice to put event handlers in the HTML. So that's where the events come in JavaScript. That makes it very easy to maintain your code and to make changes. And so for this case, I had a button, I had an event handler added to this button in HTML, but I want to do it in JavaScript. So the first thing that I'll do, I want to get hold of that button. I'll call it const btn. It's going to be document get element by ID. The ID of this button is btn. Okay, I'll call it btn. So after getting hold of the button, I now want to say button dot. Now we use a method called add event listener, and now on the event we add the event name. In this case, it's going to be click. And you know what's interesting? When I add event listener method and then I put in the quotes, immediately it shows me all the events that are available on the button element. So each element has a set of events that are on it. In this case, I'm interested in the click event. I can just click it here or type it in. So the first argument is called the event itself, which is the name of the event. The second parameter, or the second argument, is a function. that is executed once that event is fired. So once I click, I want to execute or invoke a function, and that is the change background function that I want to invoke. So I'll just put it in there. You notice I just write the name of the function. I don't put any parentheses in front of it. So let's try it out. If I click, still the background changes, it changes. So what I've just done here is that I've added an event handler. I've added an event to the button so that when someone keeps clicking it, it will randomly change the background color of my window. Okay. All right. So let's move to the second element here, which is the input. And maybe just to demonstrate a little more, I want to show you that once you add an event handler here, I want to go to the console. Yes, the console is opened, and you can see my the layout of the document, the elements. If you go in here and we have the paragraph here, then there is the button here. See, I have the button element here, which is this. Once I press it here, this is the button element. Once I press it, it gets selected. Okay. So if I come here under the button that has the ID button, you can see the ID here. If I go to event handlers here, event listeners, excuse me, you see that there is an event, a click event that has been added to it. And that is my event file, JavaScript line 5, which is right here. That's the function that is being executed once I click on the button. And there is a click event that has been added to the button. All right, so let's continue. I have my input. For that, I want to add what they call a focus event. A focus event. So once someone clicks in this input, maybe to write something, that's called focusing it. As you can see here, look at it right now, its borders are faint. Once I click in it, the borders become dark black. They become bold or dark black. So that is called focusing it. So there is an event that can be fired once you do that, and you can use it to execute something, to perform a given manipulation. So I want to get hold of this input. Okay, so I'm going to call it, let me call it a let. Okay, const. Const input element. I'm going to say it's going to be document. Let me now use query selector, dot query selector. So it's the only input element that I have in my HTML. So I can as well use a query selector to get hold of it. Input. Okay, so once I focus on it, I want it to I want it to say that, hey, I'm being focused. Okay, that's the function that I want it to run. So let me write the function focus input. You can call your functions anything. I'll have my okay. Once I focus it, I want it to add let me say a placeholder to it. Let me set an attribute to it. Okay, so let me say I'll say input dot add attribute. No, set attribute. I think that's the method. Yes, set attribute. And the name of the attribute is going to be a placeholder. I want to add a placeholder to it. And the value for it will be, enter your name here. Okay. All right, so I have my function here. So now let me add the event to it, the focus event to it. Okay. Focus event. It's going to be input dot add event listener. The name of the event is going to be the focus event. So these are all the events that are on the input element. Okay. And if I just scroll down, I think I can see the focus event on it. It's right here. Yep. focus event, and I want to run the focus input function once I focus on it. So once I click inside it, I want it to set a placeholder of enter your name here. Exactly, and you can see the placeholder has been entered here. Okay, yep, place has been entered here. If I go back to my elements and I move right here, the input is here. As you can see, if you look right here, placeholder enter your name. The attribute has been added on the document in the DOM, in the document object model, okay, which is the one that your browser reads. So I've clicked on the focus element and I've set an attribute of placeholder to enter your name here. It has been added. Okay, great. So let's look at another another event that I can add to this input element. For that, let's look at the key press event. Key press event. I'm going to get input element dot add event listener. In this case, I want to call it a key press. Yes. And then for a second argument, let me use an arrow function. And this arrow function, I want to do something. Okay. So every event, so this function that we're passing in at the second argument to an event listener always has takes in an argument of an event object. So you can call it event, and we can get properties of this event object that we can use to manipulate our code or to perform a particular thing or to know what their values are. In this case, once I enter something in this input, I want to see the value, right? Of course, I'll see it, but I want to see what the value on the event on it, the event, the key that I'm pressing, which we can get from the event. Okay. So maybe let me get the value. I'll call it const pressed key. Pressed key is going to be, now I'll take in that event object and then I'll say key. I'll get the key property on it. Okay. So now let's log to the console, the key. It's going to be the pressed key is, then I'll put it in here, pressed key. All right, let me just put this here. Okay, so I focus it, I see the event handler, write in your name. If I start with T, I'll see in the console, the pressed key is T. So once I press, the key press event is fired, and then I get the value of the key that is being pressed from the event object. Okay, if I put T, I see it. I put A, I see the next key. Yeah, then I see all the keys. All right. So we got that. So now there are very many events. Each element has a set of events that can range anywhere from 5 to even more than 10 or even 20. So it depends. It depends, and I would advise you to research more. I advise you to research more to find out all the events available on each HTML element, on each element. Okay, so do your research, but bottom line is that every event works the same way. This is the logic that you use to use events to perform a particular task in JavaScript, to execute a particular piece of code, or to perform a particular task in your application. So after putting all events on your elements, whatever events that you want in your elements, it's a good idea to remove events, to put removers of those events. For example, if you load a page on a website, you can put all those events on particular elements on your web page using the onload event, which is on the window object. And once someone toggles away from that tab, you can remove those events. That's good coding convention because prevents memory leaks in your application and it makes it more versatile. So how do we remove events? So there is a method that is called remove event listener, okay, that removes the event that has been added to a particular JavaScript element. So for example, if I say button dot remove event listener, I'll put the name of the event that I want to remove, which is going to be click, and that click event was calling the change background function. So I'll put the function there. Okay. So now if I click this button, nothing will happen. The event has been removed. Okay. Now if I comment out that line of code and I click here, my background will change. So here the event is being added. Now the event has been removed. Okay. Okay, there is another way. That's one way. You can use the remove event listener method, but there is another way where you can pass in a third argument in your function that adds an event listener, and that can be used to remove the event. So let me use this for that illustration. Let me put const, call it a butter. Then there is a method called abort controller. It's a constructor method. So we're going to say new abort controller. So then after my second argument, which is this function, that's the second argument to the event listener, I'm going to put a comma and add a function, an object. Now that object has a property called signal, and that property we shall assign it the abort.signal. Okay, so let me format it here. Okay, so if I wanted to remove the key press event on this input, now as it stands, if I put J, I'll see the key that is being pressed, H, T, I'll see all the keys that are being pressed. I want to remove the event listener of one key press. What I'll do is I'll call the input element, and then I will call the abort method on it. Input element abort. No, I'll call the aborter dot abort. Okay. All right. So now if I set T H N, okay, give me a minute. Let me reload. T H. Okay, let me look through my code. Okay, I remembered something. So this has no problem. What happens is that once the page reloads, the aborter method, this aborter.abort method automatically removes the event that has been attached to that element. Okay, so I can still click, I can still press keys and they will be logged in the console. I can still show all the keys if there are any spaces and whatever. But once the page reloads, automatically the event on that, the event that has the aborter on will be removed. Yeah. So in a nutshell, this is what I had for you about events. I'm going to link links to this. I'm going to link a link to this website and another one where you can read more about events. And I will also add the link to the GitHub repo that is going to be having this code. If you want to follow up with the coding or if you want some boilerplate code as you start, if you're going to be coding along. I'm glad you made it to this video. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.